All right, the 2024 NRL season is officially underway, and wow, it's already serving up some serious drama. And it's not just about who won or who lost. There are these huge stories taking shape about coaching, mindset, and even the very soul of the game. So let's get into it.
And we're going to kick things off with this quote. A fiery ultimatum from a club legend who's now a rookie head coach. Honestly, these words from West Tigers' Benji Marshall, they just perfectly capture the insane pressure and the new standards being set from day one.
But that's just scratching the surface, right? In this explainer, we're going to break down the biggest storylines to come out of the opening round. We're talking about a coach finding a new identity, a record chase that's been decades in the making, and what it all says about where rugby league is headed.
So first up, let's really dig into that ultimatum from Benji. For years, we all knew him as one of the most gifted, off-the-cuff players to ever grace a footy field. But now, he's the coach, and the message he's sending could not be more different.
And this is what's so fascinating, right? Look at the contrast. Benji the player was all about instinct, individual magic, that flash of brilliance. But Benji the coach, he's demanding accountability, structure, and team standards above everything else. He's basically flipping the script from me to we.
And here's the key takeaway, and it's a big one. According to Phil Gould, this isn't really about Benji just yelling at his players. It's more like a promise he's making to himself, out loud for everyone to hear. He's figured out his team doesn't need another mate. They need a leader. This is him becoming the coach he knows he has to be.
Okay, so that's the standard a coach is trying to set. But what about the standard the teams set on the field? Because in that first chaotic round, one simple little idea made all the difference between winning and losing.
And this is it. This quote from Penrith's Dylan Edwards just hits the nail on the head. It's not about the highlight reel plays, especially not to kick off the season. Nope. It's about grinding it out, being disciplined, and just getting the job done.
And just look at the grand final rematch. It's the perfect example. You had the Panthers, who Gus Gould said put on a perfect round one performance. Why? Because they kept it simple, they were controlled, disciplined, and they just let the Broncos beat themselves. Meanwhile, Brisbane fell right into that trap, started making errors, and basically, as Gus put it, caused their own downfall.
Okay, so that makes you wonder, right? Why would a team like the Brisbane Broncos, last year's grand finalists, be so likely to fall into that trap of frustration? Well, Phil Gould's got a theory, and it's all tied up in who they are as a team. He calls them a different style of premier. And what does that mean? Basically, unlike those old-school dominant teams, the Broncos last year always felt like they had a bit of a wobbly wheel. They weren't always the best team on paper week to week, but they had this unbelievable knack for winning games they had no business winning, all thanks to the sheer magic of their stars.
And these guys, these are the magicians. Players like Reece Walsh and Ezra Mam, they can just pull a rabbit out of a hat and carry the team over the line. Their whole run to the grand final was built on that incredible strike power. The big question for them is still finding that consistency week in and week out.
All right, let's switch gears. We've talked teams, now let's talk about one man chasing down a piece of history, a record that pretty much everyone thought was untouchable.
212. Just let that number sink in for a second. That's the mountain. That's the number of tries the legendary Ken Irvine scored, a record that's been the gold standard for generations of players.
And check out this timeline, it really puts it into perspective. This record was set back in the 60s. It stood there untouched for over half a century, and now South swinger Alex Johnston is knocking on the door.
But wait, it gets even better. You couldn't write a better script. There's a very real chance he could break this historic record against South Sydney's absolute mortal enemies, the Sydney Roosters. I mean, come on, the drama is just perfect.
And you better believe the Roosters know exactly what's at stake. Like Gus says, there is no way on earth they want to be the team that lets that happen on their watch. That game isn't just going to be about 2 points. It's going to be about pride, and for them, it's going to be about stopping history.
Okay, for our last point, let's pull back from the individual rivalries and look at something bigger. A decision that's really about the heart and soul of the game itself.
So here's the deal. Kalyn Ponga, a guy who's played State of Origin for Queensland, has asked to switch his allegiance so he can play for New Zealand. And this is a massive deal. It signals a huge shift in how we think about the international game.
So why is this so important? Well, Gus Gould is all for it, and here's why. It makes international footy way more competitive.
It actually reflects what the NRL looks like today with its incredible diversity and Pacific Island heritage. And, maybe most importantly, it lets players honor their family and their roots without derailing their careers. Honestly, it's a huge step forward for the game's future.
So, when you put it all together, you've got new coaches demanding new standards, a race to break a 60-year-old record, and a game that's literally changing its own rules to embrace its identity. It all leaves us with one big question as we look at the season ahead. What will be the narrative that we remember most?